Y'all, welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's another beautiful day on planet Earth. And we've been going through doing some bee stuff, and I know people have been asking about bees, and I really want to show you the inside of the beehive, but it's just not that time of year. But there's a reason why we wanted to raise honey, and I really learned about this year, or raise bees for honey, and I learned about this year, and I just kind of have an example for you. And I want you to see it. And I mean, really, you should be buying your honey from local beekeepers, even though it's more expensive than the grocery store. It's like 1,000 times better, and it's fun to see the difference. I've been going through my beehives, and one of my hives died out, which is just how it is sometimes. And this hive is bustling. So what we did is we took out all the frames that had honey in it, and we put more honey in for this hive to give them more food for the winter, and this, that, and the other. Little did I know, they had plenty of food in there. So we've got a little bit left over, not enough to harvest yet, but I went through, and knowing how the hive works and what was going into the hive throughout the year, I know that there's different seasons worth of honey inside of this hive, and you can see it when you go about it. So what I want to do is I want to show you through the frames that we've pulled out, and then explain to you kind of, or not kind of, but why you really need to be buying from a local beekeeper. So I put this up here so you guys can see a frame if you're not curious about it, but this is a typical pattern where they'll put food on the outside. So this is all honey that's capped with wax. And then right here is where they would put the eggs and the brood. So you can see where this hive did in fact die out, but there is some brood left over. But you can see that the honey is what it's all about. So let me get the dirt off my knife. And if we just put it on here, do you see how clear this honey is? So this was the earlier season honey, right? And it's sweet. It's got a sweet, typical honey flavor. Kids, don't lick your knives at home. Don't do as I do. Do as I say, right? That's how it works. But then we have this hive out, or the rest of the hive here, that we're letting the bees rob out if they ever come and find it. Apparently my bees don't care about it. They've got plenty of food, but whatever, we're going to give them the option. But we're going to take advantage of it. So then here's the other option. So here's a frame, and I'm sorry if you can hear the wind. And you can see they were actually filling this hive up. Flip it over so I don't make a huge mess. And you see all that shiny stuff in there? That's all nectar that they had not turned into honey yet. But do you see this dark honey? This is fall honey. So this is the fun part now. So let's take our knife. Let me get the honey off of it. Hold on. All right. Take our knife and push it on there. And see, that's a little bit darker. You can see it when it comes out. See how much darker it is? So that is goldenrod honey. And that's what you get in the fall. It's a completely different flavor. It's darker, so when you even look at the jar, you can tell that it's darker, and it's got like a butterscotch flavor almost. And my bee mentor Paul at Warden's Farm Beekeeping NC, you can check him out on YouTube. He's the one that introduced it to me because he gave me a jar of honey and it was clear. And then he was like, well, let's go check out my personal stash, which by the way is like gallons of honey. My man loves some honey. So we went and the difference was night and day. And we ate it, and I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. And so going through these hives is interesting to see that. So there's a little bit more. Now that's a different flavor. So that's 3 times I've tested it and 3 different flavors I've gotten. That flavor is a little bit more, it's kind of hard to describe. It's like a more skunky, mild flavor, if that makes sense. That's pretty good. So you can see that there's just a wide difference in it. So here's another piece, and I like to get a little bit of the wax. It's almost like gum. You just save it. I know if you guys are beekeepers, I probably did something wrong, but you know what? This is what I've experienced, and this is what I've seen, and I found it really fascinating. This isn't even the darkest of the dark honey. Like, I mean, the stuff that Paul has given me has been like almost as dark as like a dead leaf. It's like really dark, but it's just a totally different flavor. So when you go to the grocery store, other than getting infused flavors, it always tasted the same to me, to the point to where I was like, I don't really like honey. It doesn't really have a good, I mean, it has a good flavor, but it's just, it never changes. And it was just kind of one of those things. But now that I've tasted really 3 seasons of honey, and it also changes based on what flowers are eating too, or collecting nectar off of. So like wildflowers, lavender, different trees, stuff like that. It changes the flavor of the honey, which is interesting to me. So aside from its health benefits and all that stuff, it's just really interesting to me how the flavor can change. And I encourage you to, like, yeah, it does cost a little bit more money because there's a lot of work that goes into raising bees. I mean, here you go. Here it is. I came out here and I worked on these bees, and I got started a little late. I think it was like late May into June. Once a week, twice a week, going into the hives, almost had multiple heat strokes from the heat, and still haven't gotten a jar of honey. If that expresses to you how much work it is to raise honey. So like when you pay, like my mom had some honey and she's like, oh, I got this from Poland. And it's even got a piece of the honeycomb in it, which is like gold. And I was like, well, how much is it? And she's like, oh, it's $4. No. Either that honey is not from Poland, it's fake honey, something's going on, because there is no way you're gonna buy a jar of honey for $4. Now, it was a small jar, but even still, it was just kind of ridiculous. And when you taste it side by side, there is like no comparison whatsoever. So this year, when you're out in the spring and you see a beekeeper selling some honey, buy some from them and just try it out. You know, go in the spring and then go in the fall and get the 2 different flavors or 2 different kinds, and you'll taste the difference. And a lot of people say that the fall honey is no good. It tastes like shoes. Man, that's my favorite honey. Everybody that I've had try all the different, you know, colors of honey, spring and fall, they all love the fall one better. So hopefully this is our year. We'll find out. But we're down a hive, but it's cool. It's the way it is. This is nature. You can't make bees do something they don't want to do. And apparently they just didn't want to make it through the winter. I did everything I could. I followed all directions, and it happens.